Direct Connection is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you. Live from Maryland Public Television, this is Direct Connection with Jeff Salkin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for Direct Connection. Coming up tonight, we will get the blood pumping in a conversation with the head of the Maryland Vascular Center. But first tonight, successful hacker attacks on CareFirst and the federal government may have revealed personal data on more than 1 million people in our area. How should we respond? Joining us is Rebecca Bowman, administrator of the Howard County Office of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Seems like a week doesn't go by without another story about some big database full of private personal information being hacked.
Yeah, it is happening more and more. And unfortunately, for most of us individuals, we really can't do a whole lot to prevent those kinds of big data breaches. Whenever you give your information to an employer or to a medical insurance provider, they now have your information, and so that information is as safe as they're able to keep it. And so it's often, with the big data breaches, it's really out of your control.
You almost have to assume that your data is just not safe, no matter what somebody says.
There are certainly things that you can do to try and protect your data, but absolutely, there are just more and more places that have your information, and again, you're really kind of at their mercy in terms of keeping it safe.
So what's the risk to somebody out there who may have been a federal employee, may be a federal employee, may have done business with CareFirst, say their data is out there, and the hackers, wherever they are, have it?
Right.
What bad things can happen as a result?
It can range anywhere from nothing to someone being able to take out credit in your name and potentially leaving you with the bill, to hijacking your federal government benefits, your Social Security or your medical insurance. Medical ID theft is on the rise, to people who commit crimes using your identity. And so you could find yourself arrested for something that you never did based on the fact that someone has used your identity to commit that crime.
Is there a way to protect yourself from that at this point?
There are different levels of things you can do. For example, for the federal employees whose information has been hacked, they are being offered by the federal government 18 months of credit monitoring, as well as $1 million of liability insurance. I would recommend that, when you're offered credit monitoring like that for free, you should absolutely take it. There's no downside in taking advantage of that credit monitoring thing. The other thing that you can do, though, is you should first of all get a copy of your credit report right away and find out where make sure there's nothing amiss to begin with. And then what you can do is you can check your credit periodically yourself if you want to do a double check on what the credit monitoring service is doing. You can. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You finish up. You're the expert.
You can also do things with the credit reporting bureaus, such as putting a fraud alert on your account or freezing your credit report.
Okay, so let's walk through that stuff. In terms of getting the credit report, you can get all three at once.
You can.
And for free, without using any service that sells it to you.
That's correct. You can go to annualcreditreport.com, I believe is the website.
Does it make sense to stagger them?
Yes.
Every 4 months, go through TransUnion, Experian.
Yes, that's what I was going to suggest, is you can get them all at once, but if you spread them out, then every 4 months you're getting a fresh look at what's on your credit report.
Let me remind our viewers, if you have a question, please give us a call. We'll have the number on the screen. We will begin in Carroll County with Roger. Roger, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Good evening. Is there any requirement for a company that's been hacked to notify each individual?
Yes.
Thanks very much. I mean, they seem to do it. I got a very nice letter from CareFirst.
Yes. In Maryland, certainly, there is a requirement that notification be given whenever there's any kind of a data breach.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the idea of putting a fraud alert. Now, in this case, most people probably, even though, interestingly, these things happened a year ago.
Yeah.
But hopefully people out there haven't had any fraud. Mm-hmm. Can you still put a fraud alert on, and what to do?
Sure. You can put a fraud alert on at any time, and that lasts for 90 days. And what happens is, if someone tries to open up credit using your personal identification, the creditor will contact the credit bureau to get your credit report to see what your income is, what your debt load is, and how you are at paying your bills. If there's a fraud alert on your credit report, then the creditor is going to be told that by the credit reporting agency, and they're going to be advised to ask for additional identification from the person who's seeking to open up the credit to verify that it's who they say it is. Some creditors will just stop there and won't go forward with allowing you to open up credit. But some will. But again, they are cautioned that there is an alert on this person's file.
So the downside is, if you're thinking about opening up a new credit card, you're going to complicate the process of doing that.
A little bit, in that you'll just need to make sure you really do have, your identification with you. That is all going to line up. Maybe you have a couple of pieces of identification to make sure you can establish who you are. But that's a pretty minimal inconvenience. Credit freezes are more complicated.
Same thing as locking your credit, is that?
Exactly.
Okay.
So when the creditor contacts the credit reporting agency, they won't get anything. The credit reporting agency won't give them any information, and that will, again, stop the transaction in its tracks. The downside of that is that you would have to remove the freeze on your credit report anytime you wanted to get a new credit card, take out an auto loan, get a mortgage, what have you. It's relatively inexpensive. $5 in Maryland is the max they can charge. But it does mean you have to think ahead in terms of what kind of credit do I want to be, new credit do I want to be getting?
Let's go out to Washington County. This is Stephen. Stephen, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Yes, I would like to know why the government has not made it illegal to defraud people over the Internet. They do that with the post office, which now they seem to shy everybody away from the post office. It's too expensive to send somebody a letter through the mail. But that was a federal crime to defraud people through the federal government and the post office. Why is that not the same with the Internet?
That's an interesting question. Thank you, sir. I mean, I'm sure it's illegal.
It actually is.
But right. More broadly, are the laws here adequate, do you think?
It seems to me every year the General Assembly in Maryland has been enacting more and more stringent laws regarding identity theft and other kinds of privacy issues. I think the federal government is doing the same. I'm not sure if I can't tell you if it's enough, but I will tell you it is a topic that is always being looked at.
What kind of cases do you see in your office? Do people call up victims of identity theft?
Yeah, during the last tax season, we got a number of calls from people who, when they filed their income taxes, got a note back from the federal government saying, "Oh, it looks like your tax return had already been filed by someone else." And then there's a procedure that people have to go through to not only make sure that they're paying their proper amount of taxes or getting back the proper amount of refund, but also they'll set up a heightened level of security for filing your taxes next year.
Well, that's a whole separate scam where people are filing tax returns, getting refunds.
Right.
Billions that the IRS is just shipping out the door.
Right.
To the wrong people.
Yeah. But to go back to the previous caller, the IRS is very concerned about this, because obviously that's money that's going right out of the taxpayers' pockets if they're paying refunds to two different people. So I think both the FBI is really looking into how to find and stop the people who are doing it, so that doesn't continue to happen.
Montgomery County, this is Paula. Paula, thank you for the call. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to know what are the three
the credit bureaus?
Yes, and do they go by name.com?
Okay, thanks very much. A great trivia question. So
right.
I came up with TransUnion and Experian.
Right, and then there's also Equifax. And,
just rolls off the tongue.
That's right.
So how can somebody remember that and find them?
It's really as easy as kind of going on and putting in a search engine, credit reporting agencies, and they're all going to pop up. If you want to put a fraud alert, all you have to do is put it on with one company, and they will make sure the other two companies put fraud alerts on as well.
But if you want to do the freeze, you have to go to all three.
You have to go to all three. That's correct.
Okay. You were making the point before that a lot of places still ask for your Social Security number when they have no business or no real business need, I should say, asking for your Social Security number. Right.
We really urge people that whenever anybody asks for your Social Security number, where it's not obvious why they need it, you should ask, why do you need my Social Security number? And let them know you really don't want to give it to them. If they're able to come up with a good reason why they really need it, you should then ask follow-up questions such as, okay, so how do you share it with other people? Do you share it with other people? And how do you protect it from other people who aren't supposed to have it from getting it? Too many people just, whenever they're asked for their Social Security number, will write it down or give it out. And we really would like to have people pushing back a little bit more about why is the information needed.
Leela in Frederick County. Leela, thank you for the call. Go ahead.
Hi, my son is 6, and he's on my insurance. He got a letter from Care First, but I did not. Do I need to be concerned about my information being taken as well since I'm the policyholder?
Wow, that's interesting. All right, thank you very much.
I would certainly contact Care First and ask them that very question because it does seem like the accounts would be joint, and so I would certainly follow up with that.
But there is such thing as childhood identity theft.
Absolutely, and that really gets back to the asking questions of why people need Social Security numbers. A lot of after-school programs, we have found will ask for Social Security numbers, and when you ask, well, why do you need that? Oh, well, that's just something we've always done, and there isn't a really good reason for them collecting that information.
I was going to ask, what's the first sign that you got a problem? And follow up, what do you do? What's your first step after you think you have a problem?
It can range from being turned down for credit because you have a really high debt load when you only really have 1 or 2 credit accounts. So you look at your credit report and you find out there's a problem that way. You may find out by looking at your explanation of benefits from your insurance company, your medical insurance company, and see that there are all kinds of procedures that are listed on that you never had or no one in your family ever had. It's one of the important things to do is to really monitor both, not just your credit card accounts as they come in, but all of your accounts as they come in, to make sure that everything that's there is supposed to be there and that there isn't anything there that isn't supposed to be there.
So it shouldn't be this way, but we all have to be careful.
Absolutely.
Rebecca Bowman, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Just ahead tonight, the importance of screening for vascular disease with more of your calls. We'll be right back.
Going out for breakfast can be a treat.
It's an important part of the day, even if you wake up late.
My father loves a sausage here.
2 eggs over easy with link sausage and grits.
We serve eggs for the love of God. It's not rocket science.
The breakfast specials is full of surprises.
How much can I screw stuff up? It's eggs and toast.
It's Breakfast Special 2, Revenge of the Omelets.
Sometimes I do screw it up, though.
Tonight at 9 on MPT2.
Next time on The Roosevelts, FDR begins an unprecedented 3rd term.
Certain moments produce exactly the right human beings.
Eleanor campaigns for civil rights.
There was that confidence that Mrs. Roosevelt would get it done.
And America goes to war.
Japan has undertaken a surprise offensive.
Part 6 of The Roosevelts, An Intimate History.
Tuesday night at 8 on MPT.
On Frontline.
It's like being buried alive.
Solitary confinement.
We can either make them worse or we can rehabilitate them.
Is it necessary or inhumane?
Can't conduct yourself like a human being when they treat you like an animal.
With unprecedented access, Frontline goes inside Solitary Nation.
Tuesday night at 10 on MPT.
Joining us for this week's Your Health segment is Dr. Michael Lilly, professor of surgery at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, director of the Maryland Vascular Center, and chief of surgery at the University of Maryland Medical Center Midtown campus. Doctor, thank you for being with us.
Great to be here, Jeff.
You are a vascular surgeon. We have a lot of vascular veins and arteries.
Yes, we do.
Miles and miles.
That's right. What is the quote? 63,000 miles of piping in the body. The vascular system is a system of pipes, and the heart pumps the blood out through the arteries, the artery pipes, and goes out to all of the vital organs of the body, and gathers back together through veins to go back to the heart, be oxygenated, and pumped back out again through the circulation.
And a lot of things can go wrong. What are the common issues that you see?
Well, to keep with the pipe analogy, you have the same kind of problems you have in the pipes in your car and in your house. One of the major diseases we deal with at the Vascular Center is hardening of the arteries, or atherosclerosis, which is a condition where deposits form inside the arteries of the body, just like you can get deposits in your pipes at home, that narrow the flow and limit the amount of blood that can be delivered to the vital organs, and that affects their function.
And we think about that in terms of heart disease or stroke, but the similar process of things basically getting clogged up can happen anywhere.
Exactly. Hardening of the arteries, atherosclerosis, can affect arteries anywhere in the body. There are certain arteries that have a propensity to have this problem. The heart arteries, the coronary arteries we call them, are a hot spot. Another common place is the carotid arteries of the neck, which are the arteries to the brain, and that's where the association with stroke comes in. The peripheral arteries, when we talk about peripheral artery disease, which is another term for this hardening of the arteries, atherosclerosis, that's typically in the extremities or in the neck arteries, the carotid arteries.
What are the symptoms of that?
Well, it depends on where the narrowing is. So individuals with a narrowing in the arteries to the brain, sometimes the symptom is a transient neurologic event, weakness in an arm or leg, a change in vision that lasts only a few seconds. Sometimes the first symptom is a stroke. In the extremities, usually it's a functional problem. The limited blood flow only is apparent with increased activity. So when you walk or jog or have do things at work, the legs come up short of perfusion and will have muscular pain. That type of pain resolves relatively quickly as soon as you stop exercising, because the demands of the muscle drop quickly.
You know, with the plumbing analogy, I was thinking that I know more about how to keep the pipes at home clear and running freely than I do about how to do that for the blood vessels in my body. What do we need to know?
Well, this is one of the main reasons why I like to come on a show like yours, because I think there is a lot of lack of information about some basic things. The simplest things that can be done to keep the pipes flowing are things that anyone can do. This is diet, exercise, paying attention to the risk factors for hardening of the arteries, which vary from person to person. The main ones being diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol or lipid problems in the blood, and probably the most important is tobacco. Cigarette smoking is probably the most powerful and potent risk factor for hardening of the arteries, not just in the peripheral arteries, but also in the coronary arteries and elsewhere.
Curious what the mechanism is there.
Well,
how does it happen?
That's a Nobel Prize for you, Jeff.
I'll work on it.
The association has been known for years, and there's two effects of the smoking. One is one that causes the disease to develop more rapidly, and the other is an acute effect of the nicotine to narrow the blood vessels as a chemical. Nicotine's a chemical that does that.
If you narrow the blood vessels, blood pressure goes up?
It can, and so there can be a feedback between the blood pressure that often is elevated for an unknown reason in many people. Most people who have hypertension have what we call idiopathic hypertension. We doctors don't know why the blood pressure is high. It is, but nicotine will raise the blood pressure further.
Let's take a phone call. Baltimore City, this is Alex. Alex, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening.
Great show as always.
Thank you.
My question to the doctor is, do sodium ever leaves the heart, and how much intake of salt do we really need, sodium we really need in our body? Thanks.
I'm so glad you asked that question.
Well, sodium is a big factor in hypertension. And hypertension does have the reputation of being the silent killer. It's an important risk factor for hardening of the arteries, strongly associated with stroke. The amount of sodium that we recommend in the diet is usually less than 4 grams a day. That's not very much. However, of course, if you look at the diets that people have and the foods that we buy in the convenience store, there's a lot of sodium in virtually everything that you buy in the store.
But the headlines, it's been a while, but within the last year or two, there were headlines maybe downplaying the association between sodium and blood pressure. I mean, it wasn't the direct slam dunk cause that we had all been told to stay off of this stuff.
Well, I think this is one of the situations where I think it's important for people to have a broad view. There isn't a single silver bullet that deals with this problem of hypertension or atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries. It's an impact that happens by virtue of interaction of many things. And I think, yeah, the message for a long time was salt, salt, salt. Message for a long time has been lipids or cholesterol, almost to the exclusion of other types of risk factors that people should be paying attention to. And I think we doctors need to communicate more broadly about the various different components that can be contributing to this problem.
Let's talk to Mary in Baltimore County. Mary, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
My question is, suppose you have varicose veins, you know you have bad varicose veins in your legs, and is that also a sign that you might have bad veins in your neck? And how do you go to a doctor and just say, you know, I'd like to have this looked at?
Just like that. Mary, great question. Thank you for calling. And I'll ask it of a doctor right here. I've heard that. The varicose veins are a warning sign that everything may be not right with your arteries, for example.
I think it's important to separate the veins and the arteries as different sides of the circulation. And they have different problems. Certainly there are individuals who have varicose veins or other types of vein conditions who have hardening of the arteries also. But generally, those two conditions are separate. The risk factors for the two different conditions are different. We talked about the hardening of the artery risk factors a few minutes ago. Venous conditions more commonly run in families. Sometimes they're associated with hormonal issues and factors like that that are entirely different from what causes hardening of the arteries.
Let's focus for a minute on what you do with the vascular center and the types of treatments that are available.
Well, I think the most important thing about vascular disease is that this is not some hopeless condition where if you're found to have some chronic venous problem or an advanced hardening of the arteries and you're potentially in danger, that there's nothing that can be done. Early detection of the disease enables people to be treated with simple things, diet, exercise, medications, and so on. But even with those with advanced disease, there's treatments today that can be relatively non-invasive and still solve difficult problems that years ago would require complex operations. So we treat the whole spectrum of vascular disease, from veins to arteries, from medical therapy to surgical interventions.
The surgeries that you perform, how much has that changed over the years from, I'm guessing, more open procedures to less invasive?
Well, I don't want to tell you how long I've been at this.
I'm sure your arteries are in great shape, though.
Yes, they are. When I first trained, everything was open surgery. There were very few procedures that could be done percutaneously. Today, through the skin, right. With a needle through a small catheter. Today, my practice is probably 70% through the skin, percutaneous with needles and catheters and balloons and things like that. And some of that is the advance of technology. Some of it is more awareness, identifying patients at an earlier stage where we can do simpler types of treatments. So it's been a very gratifying profession to see these kind of changes.
Just a couple of seconds. If somebody's concerned about this, they're seeing their primary care doctor, what do you ask? How do they know if your arteries are okay?
I think the most important thing is to discuss with your primary care doctor your risk factors. Find out what your risk profile is. Individuals' age is probably the most important risk factor. So people less than 60, peripheral artery disease is pretty uncommon unless you have those risk factors we talked about before. I think that's the best guideline.
Very good. Dr. Michael Lilly with the University of Maryland School of Medicine, the University of Maryland Medical Center, thank you. And thank you for joining us for Direct Connection. Have a good night.
Your health segments are a co-production of Maryland Public Television and the University of Maryland Medical System.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.